Yeah, she did.
Oh my God, like she's like got the chair and the dog.
She does.
I just noticed.
Like,
I like just looked at her real quick, like she's ready.
This chair actually hangs out of the ceiling of my bedroom.
This is like a swing. This is like a sexual thing. I love it.
Welcome to Pretty and Petty Podcast. It took me 10 takes to do that, but we made it. We're here. And guess who's not here? Karen.
That's right, Karen. No sticker for you, bitch.
No perfect attendance award for you, biatch. She likes to tease us too much. But it's fine. We're missing Karen right now. But it's cool. We're just gonna continue with our flow. And Karen, hopefully you make it for the next run. Right now, my name is Esty, the usual typical host. By now, if you don't know my name or my voice, then what the fuck is wrong with you? Why aren't you listening to us? Alongside with me is Alex.
What up?
Big Dick Alex.
Big Dick Alex is in the house.
And
That's
if
right.
you don't know why she's called that, then again,
Why the fuck?
Listening to us?
Why the fuck you not listening is right.
Today we're gonna do something that I don't think we've done on this podcast, Alex, which is actually have an actual conversation, like girl talk conversations. When we were planning this podcast together almost a year ago, or maybe a year ago, right? It was
a year ago.
We were talking about subjects that we wanted to hit, and being women, being mothers, being single women, being in New York, and just overall life experiences. We want to talk about dating. And we never found someone to talk about dating. And I did have a few friends, and most of the guests here are my homies, are my friends, or my family.
It's always her cousins. Like we're like, yeah, it's another cousin. It's okay. We didn't introduce Lisa yet.
No, I was getting there.
Oh
my God, you just ruined the whole flow. This is why you're not allowed to host. Damn
but because you're it's like you're talking about her.
I'm going.
Sorry, I ruined it.
Direction.
My bad.
Job, which is literally to listen.
Literally, anyway. They don't make me host because of this shit. Because I'll like go straight to the point, and they'll be like, "But you didn't even introduce her like softly." I'm like, I go in rough. I go in hard. Get in there.
That's why your name is Big Dick Alex.
That's why it's Big Dick.
Hard. But we haven't had girl conversations. We haven't talked about the actual dating world, which is something we wanted to talk about before. And we have the perfect person, I think, in my opinion. Yeah. And her name is Lisa. Lisa.
She's like, that's it.
No government names.
Don't get my government name out.
I never do. So don't worry about it. Let the people know a little bit about you without specifics.
Tell a little bit about me. Well, I've been single now. It's going on 3 years. It's really 2 years. I don't count the pandemic year. I don't count anything that's happened in the pandemic year.
You didn't age last year either, right?
I haven't aged. Anyone I've dated or been with doesn't count. Like none of the decisions matter in the pandemic year.
I like that because there was some situations last year for me. So.
They're all situations or pandications. I don't know. We can make up our own word for that. Other than that, I go on a lot of dates and guys often say, "How are you single?" And I think to myself, well, it's not my fault. It's your fault. So I'm happy to be here to talk about it. I don't know if I want to be the queen of singleton, but
oh my God, that's pretty good.
Singleton. I'm actually excited. This is like in a long time, like a topic and a guest that I'm excited because I can relate to. Because let me just tell you something, Lisa. They be bringing on their Dominican family all the time, and I can't really relate to, right? Or they talk motherhood and stuff, and here I am single, and I can't it can't come out so much. So now look, I got someone that's on my side that's dealing with the same shit. Mm-hmm. And she got a swing, God damn it. Her chair, if any of you, and Esty will post these outtakes, this fucking chair is life to me right now. Like she is swinging. I'm going to get nauseous in a minute just watching her, but she is doing it. So Lisa, thank you for coming on and
Yeah.
helping the single women like me out there, and we could talk about it, and Esty can relate now, not just from my point of view, but you can also kind of agree or disagree on the shit. I keep telling them, I'm like, you guys would never survive being single right
Never
now.
survive. And I really appreciate you saying that, because most of my friends are married with kids. And when I try to discuss things with them, I think more often than not, I get the feedback of, you act like I've never been single, Lisa. And I'm like, no. It's not that you haven't been single.
Right.
You haven't been single in the last couple of years, and a lot has changed. You haven't been single during a pandemic. You haven't been single when online dating was just a thing. You haven't been single in the last 10 years when your other friends weren't single. So it's very different when you're younger and you're all going out in groups and you're going to bars and clubs and you're meeting, you're having fun and you look wild, versus you're getting older. It's one or two people, you're out to dinner. You're
It's
like
dwindling. The groups are dwindling.
Yeah. I say, as men get older, they start to be like the island of the misfits, one broken toy after another. So it's very different than when you're younger and you're like, oh, red flag. That's okay. He's hot. I'll ignore that red flag. It's very different these last 5 years, I would say.
I agree 100% with you, and I love this goddamn conversation. I'm so excited that you know what the hell I'm talking about, because it's true. Esty don't know, and Karen don't know.
And like, how long have I been with my partner? For almost 12 years. So for me,
because if you were
in my 20s as a young girl in college, and I've been with this guy for over 10 years. So for me, I don't know what the dating life is, and I hear stories, and I always think like, damn, that sucks, right? And it seems like the pool of men that exist now for like single women is pretty like the nastiest funky fish in the sea, that at the bottom of the sea, right? The ones that have the glass bulb in front of them with their sharp, that's what you're getting, right?
They're the ones that caught and someone was like, nah, not good enough, and threw them back.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just what the expectations that I'm hearing about, and you guys can get into that and educate me on that, because I would like to know. I mean, I don't know if I'll be with this man forever, right? We're talking about me here, right? So he might lose his patience eventually and run away. But I think it's a great conversation to have, and I actually have no notes. So I was like, because I trust Lisa, and every conversation that I have with Lisa, whether we're talking about average ass new year, new me situations, right? Or like talking about, oh, don't tell nobody you saw me with my ex yesterday morning walking out my building, right? Like, shit like that.
I said, don't tell nobody. She saw me doing the walk of shame once. Man.
Oh, that's the best. I got caught in that too one time, and I made pretend I was dropping off something. I was like, nah, and they're like, it's okay. You don't got. I don't know, even at our age, why I gotta explain myself. I was like, yes, I did. Yes, goddamn it, I did.
It's easier when you're younger because it's almost like a badge of honor. For some reason, when I was older, I was like, you don't know me, don't talk to me, don't tell our friends. Like,
oh my God. Yeah, I'd be like, listen, and don't be liking every goddamn picture, because my friends will pick up on that and be like, yo, who's this rad 2140 that just be liking all your pictures all of a sudden? I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah, well, I think that everyone, if you're listening, you need a Lisa in your life. I know Karen tried to adopt your name, actually. She loves the name Lisa. Yeah. So if she was here, she'll be like, oh, I want to be Lisa. I don't want to be a Karen. Nobody wants to be a Karen.
She hates her name. Poor girl.
Right?
Poor
but
girl.
Honestly, I never felt like, even just meeting her, you spark with her. So I'm sure after this conversation, Alex, you might end up being Lisa.
I'm in love with her already because of the, like, you know what it is?
For the chair.
Let me tell you, forget the chair. When you're single at this age and you meet another single woman who's beautiful just as you are, and you're like, wait a minute, what the fuck nothing's wrong with both of us. Girl, we need to hang.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, and Lisa, agree with me with this. When you have friends that are married, like, or with a partner, like Esty likes to call her man, they like to be
baby daddy.
Baby, he's a BD. Daddy. But he's like BD squared, because he's not just baby daddy, right?
Yeah.
So explain to me, or maybe you get the same thing, where your friends who are married or found one and are that all of a sudden they feel like, but Al, like, there got to be someone out there for you. Like, did you try this? Did you try? Bitch, you didn't even try that. Why you want me to do that? Like,
Thank you. So I get a lot of, and they started convincing me like, oh, you must have commitment issues because the common denominator is you. I always have a boyfriend and then I'll go to be single for a couple of years, then have a boyfriend. And so the thing is like, maybe you're not, one of my guy friends said to me recently, maybe you just need to learn how to settle more. And so I think it becomes about me because I'm one of the only single ones. And because I've often had boyfriends, it's like, how did you always have a boyfriend? Even when we were younger, I always had the first boyfriend and you didn't end up married. But sometimes I don't want to be rude, but I think to myself, maybe you guys are the ones that settle. You guys are the ones that often, sometimes are unhappy. I have friends that are going through divorces. I have some friends in great marriages. But they didn't shop around, and maybe they were lucky to find the right person, but maybe they also, some people, the idea of getting married and having kids was almost equally or more important than finding that perfect partner. And for me, because I grew up in a divorced household at a very young age and the broken family and half brother, half sister and all that other stuff, it was always important to me to have a family, not just have a husband, not just have kids. And I think that always stuck with me in making decisions. And somehow that's turned into like me having too much expectations or not sticking it out when things go south. But there's really no situation that I could give to someone where they would have said, oh, yeah, you should have stayed through that. Right. I just think I have good instincts to know when it's time to get out. I don't wait till it's dragged out and we're all miserable,
Yeah, you're not letting that water run dry in a relationship and just I'm
but
stuck here.
Interpret that, and I'm sure you get this, Alex, as you get older, well, what's wrong with you? I get that on dates a lot. Like I said, every date I go on, the first date, guys will be like, you seem so perfect. Especially because I don't have kids. That's the new thing.
So same thing. I got a dog.
Yeah. So that's the question of like, how come no one had children with you? How come nobody wanted to marry you?
Maybe I didn't let them get in there like that, homie. Like, what makes you think that I'm open sesame like Grand Central? You should be like, because maybe I wasn't letting that shit just open. I'm protected by Viper. It's like.
I love that.
Can I ask a question? Just to get an idea here, so that people listening understand. So the first question is, I don't want to specify your age, but like the range is in 40s, right?
Me?
Or yes, you.
I could say my age. I'm 41.
You didn't
have nothing wrong with that.
Age.
That's a beautiful age.
I don't know. Some people be like, oh, why you're supposed to be like that? All right. So do you feel at this age you have more pressure to find someone, or are you okay being single, or is your intention in life, I know you say your intention before as a child and growing up was to have a family. Do you think at this point in your life and being successful, being independent, having your own apartment that you bought, right? Like that's your life. You have it under control to your, or however you want it, tailored it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like at this point you want to be with somebody and married and have a family, or are you okay with just dating? Like, what is in your brain right now? Because I know people change and evolve. So for now,
I've changed throughout the years. I would have said, I would say as far as now, maybe the last 2 years, I'm in the hardest spot of my life because I am 41. And that's really tough because it's not like I'm like, oh, thanks. I remember that my guy, said to me last year, you really need to get pregnant now if you want that in your life. And I looked at her very sarcastically. I said, oh my God, thank you for letting me know. I had no idea. Let me just
call him right now.
Like it was a choice. And you have a lot of people in your life that will tell you, you could do it on your own. And that sounds really great. But there's a lot of things with that, financially, emotionally. So I think that you're right. It's like, so that's the age piece that I think I'm in a tough spot because right now when I'm dating and I'm meeting people, I've never been one to rush relationships. But I also don't have the luxury of time anymore. So I can no longer do a 3-year or 5-year relationship and say where this is going. I got to be like, do you want the same things? And then that scares off guys. So it's like, what do? Do you put it out there up front and freak them out? Or do you not say anything and end up in another long relationship and find out you don't want that? So I'd say that's one piece. And then the other part is, I believe as a woman, the more you have, the harder it is to find a guy. I own my own place. I own my own car. I have a great pension that I'm going to have. I have great credit. I'm financially stable. I have an amazing family. Seriously,
I got good credit. That's hard to find.
It's
Yeah,
hard.
trust me, that's not easy, yo.
You're
When
like,
they tell
what's
you at
yours?
the car dealership that you tier 5, you're like, damn, really still?
I
Think you didn't think about in your 20s.
know.
And so the more you have that, as anyone, right? I always want to date someone. I'm attracted to men that are on either the same level or more. I want to look up to a guy. I want to learn from a guy. But the more you have, the harder it is to find, because with a guy that has a lot of those qualities, more often than not, they are taken. They are married.
Want younger. Or they want younger.
Or they want younger. And also, that's the other thing with younger. You know, I dated older men all the time. And now that I'm older, I realize, like, oh, wow, like, now when I'm dating guys, like, it makes sense why they wanted younger girls, because my expectation is higher. When I was younger, I didn't really have any. I was just like, wow, they have their own place. That's so amazing. Now I'm like, you have your own place. Do you own this? Why are you still renting? You know? And you hate
So
to
you
do
live with your
401k?
mother. Is your roommate your mother?
Like, what's your 401k play? Like, you got, how much are you invested in?
right.
You know?
Like, you say you're single, but is there someone that lives with you that thinks that she's your wife? You know what I mean? Like, these are like conversations you know
The
how.
girl that you say that just comes to clean your house, is that really just the maid, or that's your girl?
Right.
Is that your sister or is that your girlfriend? And when you go to DR every few weeks, is it to see your baby mother and give her
Right.
money, or are you
Or
really
they're
there because you have an asset there you need to manage?
Lisa.
You know how I love my Dominicans.
Yeah.
Lisa, though,
Yes.
but I'm asking you a question. Don't
Yes.
you find it harder that even when we do date, like what I'm finding harder is even the men that are in my age, right? So I'm like you. So you're 41. I'm gonna be 40 in May, right? So
Happy early birthday.
thank you. So you find it that even when you do find guys older, like I've dated guys, like I'm like, okay, 42, 44, they still have that fuckboy mindset
It works.
still. Like,
It works.
I'm like, so why do they like to engage with you? Like, oh my God, like you're this, you're that, like you're perfect. No, I could really get with you. And then they start this like 20-year-old fuckboy mentality. So in my head, I'm like, so do I gotta go higher? Do I gotta go like 50? Because now I'm in the 40 bracket, right? So
Yeah.
I can't, if I go low, like in the 30s, no offense, and I've dated younger men,
Mhm.
it's a different thing. The 40
No.
year olds, it's just, they're like still
They're-
not.
I think they're worse because I think I missed my sweet spot. If I were giving someone advice and I could look back on my life, I would say, if you want to find your man, find them between like 27 and 35, because they still, more often than not, are still thinking about those cultural idealistic of like, no, I'm supposed to marry this girl, I'm supposed to have
Right.
kids. But once they get in their 40s, what I find is one of two things. I either meet men in their 40s that already have kids, and they either went through a divorce where they have the child support issues, and they're like, that is so traumatic for them, and they have no
It's
money.
hard.
They're like, hell no, never again.
Yeah.
And that I have no children, so it's kind of like I still have a little hope of like I want someone to be open to having at least one, you know. Or they miss the boat and they consider that as dodging a bullet. It's not like they're in their 40s and they're like, wow, I really want to find someone because I'm getting older. It's like, I never had it, I'm good without it. And they don't want to settle down. More often than not, I'm meeting guys, and maybe because of my job or my personality, guys that are divorced or out of very long relationships, and most of them ended very poorly, and they just don't want anything serious. They want to have the girlfriend experience. I always call it like the hooker girlfriend experience, but they don't want to give you the boyfriend experience. But I have guys that I have, friends with benefits hooked up, and they have the nerve to come here and be like, when are you cooking me dinner? And it's like, when are you paying my car? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are we doing here?
But I think guys are just too much now where they have so many options. Like, not that we women don't have options too, but I think because we women are emotional, and when we like someone, we will cut even hot dudes off because I'm like, no, but I want to kick it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like these guys are not that like focused. They're like, well, I'm going to keep you, but I'm still going to talk to this girl. Like, I can't find a guy that can be honest. Like you can't get like a honest answer out of them. You be like, so do you like, what do you think is gonna happen? Well, we're just dating. And I'm like, motherfucker, like, we're not 18. Like, either we know this is gonna go forward and you're gonna be a girl and then it'll go, or Like, leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
Like, but the guys, they can't like anymore. I've noticed because they have so many choices and so many girls sliding in their DMs and
So many,
showing them their titties that
so many,
they don't want to.
yeah, I agree that you're right. The choices that they have more quality than we have. And if they're not quality, they don't have the expectation of wanting quality the way that we do. So it's a win-win for them. And I've talked to my guy friends about this, and they can fight with me till they're blue in the face because they say it's not true, but it is true. Because think about it. I have a lot of single female friends that I think are pretty, that are smart, that are cool-ass chicks. I don't have any single male friends. And if I have one, when they say single, that just means they're not married to a chick. Do you know what I'm saying? But that
Live in
doesn't
the
mean,
house.
right. That doesn't mean they're single. I mean, I asked
You made a good point. I don't have any single male friends. Like I have maybe a couple single female friends, but you're right. I don't have any more single male friends.
And every time I ask my friends, my married friends, my co-workers, because people are bringing it up all the time. Like, Lisa, you seem so great. Why aren't you married? Find someone. If you think I'm so great and it's so easy, hook me up with someone. Set me up with someone. Oh, I don't know.
You've been telling me for years to hook her up with someone. And I'm like, I don't know anybody.
Right.
I don't know anybody.
So then how do you expect me to know anybody? You know what I mean? And I think it's sometimes it's that's why sometimes you have to go to the online dating, especially in the pandemic. And that's like, I mean, talk about the fish being like, you know, sick. I mean, that's like a whole other level of like just nauseousness going on top of that. And we're living in a different area of like, now it's like ghosting and being stood up, things that I've never experienced in my life. That
I tell them all the time, you should hear the group chat between me, Esty, and Karen. I'm like, wow, I just got ghosted again. They're like, what happened? I'm like, yo, I don't know these dudes. Like,
yeah, it's them. Yeah, my sister will even say to me at times, you know, like, well, maybe you said something, or not even my sister, just my friends, like, is it something you said? It's like, no, this is what they do if they just don't want to talk to you. And my favorite is ghosting doesn't bother me as much as then you will randomly, like 6 months later, hey, what's up? And I delete these dudes' phone numbers. So I'll be like,
who's this?
And they'll be like Francisco or John. Like, I'm supposed to remember, like, you think I spoke to 2 people this whole year from online, and I'll be like, remind me who you are. And then they'll ghost me again. They'll talk to me for like 2-3 days and ghost me again. And my thought in the beginning, I used to think like, am I being too strong on the phone? Am I being too independent? And I'm like, nah, I think half of these guys have girlfriends. I think they live with them. And when they want a little attention or they get in a little fight, they reach out to you. They get that little ego boost that they need. And maybe their intention is not to physically cheat. So maybe woohoo for them. I don't know. But they still need something. And I mean, I've been saying for the longest time, I want to come up with my own online dating. And the only way for men to be able to be on it, you have to be verified by like several females.
That's amazing. Do it.
That's a good idea. That's
right?
a good idea.
That's
think about it, it's like a job, right? If you're in a relationship, you're in a job. And to get a job,
resume.
You need to have referrals. You need to have a resume. You need to have a cover letter. You need to have all that. And you need to be fingerprinted. Give me your sample.
But knowing
everything, right?
they'll go out of their way
sample. Fuck.
Verify themselves. It's crazy. And then I don't know how you find Alex, but I guess there was a part of me in the beginning of the pandemic. I was like, I'm not going to date, obviously. And then, you know, there's only so much alone time anyone can take, emotionally or physically. And I was like, you know what? Maybe now is the best time to do online dating because maybe there's dudes out there that are good dudes that normally wouldn't have done online dating, but now they're forced to do it. This is the sickness that I convinced myself.
No, that's me too.
You
Same.
did? You got that?
She did. But can I ask you a question, Lisa, about your online dating profile before you continue what you're saying? Were you honest on your profile? Because somebody in this conversation said that she was an astronaut in Texas.
No. Hold on, Lisa. Before you answer, Lisa, that was when I just had enough of these fucking assholes. And I was like, you know what? You want to play? We gonna play.
Right.
Want to lie and you want to make up stories and all this bullshit, this fuck boy mentality. I'm gonna be a fuck girl, but smart about it. So they'd be like, where you from? Oh, right now I'm in Texas, you know, but I'm a nuclear physicist. I'm an astronaut. I learned, and these motherfuckers, because in my head I'm like, I'll never meet you. I don't like you ain't gonna do it for me. And some of them were from like also fake fucking profiles.
Yes, there's a lot of fake profiles. All right, so this
want
is
money.
I haven't lied. The only thing I lie about, I mean, I'm snitching on myself, is when guys ask me how long I've been single. I've noticed that when I say 2 or 3 years, they think that that's like a red flag.
Yes.
So now, which it's really not, but I don't feel like getting into it. So I'll say 1 year, or I'll say a year. I'll say like a year and a half, but I don't count the pandemic or something. That's the only thing I lie about. I have to be honest about my job, only because, you know, I do work in law enforcement, and so it weeds people out one way or another. People are very anti-law enforcement right now anyway, so I don't need to be meeting someone and find out the hard way. And then also, if someone has like a criminal background or something, it weeds them out, because then we don't have to go through that whole thing. The only thing that I do, my little secret, only one person knows this.
Now everybody.
I know. So I report a lot of people.
Girl, that's nothing. I always report people on Instagram. That's
Karen, I do the white girl Karen thing all the time. I'll be like, yo, all right, so I'm gonna tell you something. And I hope he watches this, because I think we all have friends in common. There is a guy that I see on online dating all the time.
What's his name?
No, not doing that.
What's it start with?
L.
Larry. It's always
No.
a Larry.
Lover Boy 69.
Leo. Some motherfucker.
Him out, but here, because I'm not gonna do it to the girl, but he's been with this girl for 5 years, and I see this guy, his profile pop up all the time.
Oh, and you know that he's with someone at this time. You know him like personally.
He lives with her. I know him personally.
Oh shit. Oh, but how does she not know that? Like her friends. Okay, go ahead.
So you know, because a lot of these apps do things where when you're local, right? I'm thinking like one of her friends has to be single and seeing this. So this went on like for a while, and then I was like, one day I was on my case of my fuck it's, because I'm like, yo, if I know him, and by the way, he's the second person I know that I caught on that. One of the persons was a friend of mine, so I snapped their picture on it and I texted them. I said, next time I see this, it's a wrap. He was like, thank you. This guy, I just don't like this guy, because I see it all the time, and I see their Instagram and it's like lovey-dovey stuff, and I feel bad for her. But I don't know her. I only know him. So I have gone through my head of like, yo, should I just send this to her? Like, I would want to know if someone sent it to me. So what I did was I tried to go on his Instagram to send him the picture. Well, first of all, I reported his ass to the site all the time, and then they delete his profile, but he makes another one.
He must be like, who's reporting me?
He's so desperate for a side chick, like to continue to make profiles and to do like to
And by the way, like
double life. Like
I don't know what the website does, because they might have me flagged. I report like 10 people a day, so they're probably like, yo, this psycho's reporting people.
We're not gonna send any man her way.
Yo, because you know, Alex, you know, there's a lot of these guys that put these fake pictures in their profiles, like the military and they whatever.
They're from like fucking Ghana and shit, and you're like,
yeah. But I'll see their pictures with different names. And here's like a, for women that are listening
oil
to
dwellers.
If they're new to online dating, one of the red flags is if their pictures are so great, they're like Instagram pictures, it's fake. Men don't take pictures like that. If they're in the military, they're fake. Now I have a friend, she's in the military and she posts a picture, and I tell her all the time, I don't know you, you're fake. They're all fake to me. So just
also engineers, oil engineers that are on ships. You
investigators,
fake.
And
All
they
fake.
have their full name. If they have their alleged government name, fake. So when I see, I got nothing better to do with my life, I just report them.
I did that too. Well, I did.
This guy, I finally snapped his picture, and I sent it to a mutual friend of ours, to another guy, and I said, hey, tell your boy next time I see it, I'm sending it to his girl. And of course, you know how guys are. He's like, oh, stay out of it. She'll figure it out. Women always know. So then I was like, one night I was like PMSing, and I'm like, fuck him. I saw him again. I'm like, I'm going to send it to him. But he has Instagram set where you can't like inbox if you're not friends.
Oh, yeah. You're not his friend?
No.
Oh, but his profile is
on
okay.
him.
I'm
She's monitoring his behavior.
You know, she's such a private investigator. She's like, I want to see what the fuck he's doing.
Well, like hers, because hers is public, and I'm like, oh, they just celebrated her birthday, this motherfucker. You know, so like I think about these things. That's my little secret. My secret is I go on this site at times to find love, And I go on the site sometimes. I'm like, who can I report to the
No,
website?
it's repercussions. It's just got to be, I'm with you. You, at the end, you just had enough, right? Like, I stopped all that.
You. And then you start thinking, if I know these dudes and they live with their girls, how many of these guys am I talking to that I don't know that are also in the same situation? And, you know, when my other guy friend told me, hey, stay out of it, it's got nothing to do with you, I said, but it does, because it's hard enough to meet people. And then you're not only hurting your girl, you're hurting people like me, because you're causing me to be bitter. You're causing me to be angry about dating. You're causing me trust issues. So all the things that people say about women as they get older, it's not like we woke up like that.
Right.
These are, so I, you know, sometimes I go through these motions of like, you start blaming these men. And I don't know about you, but I have to take breaks from online dating, because then I find myself being like rageful, or every little thing a red flag.
I no longer will do it. I deleted Hinge. I got played, and I'm okay to say it, where these guys are just full of shit. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done, because I've met them too. Like, you meet them and everything, and you think like this guy's authentic, and you don't know how, like, they know how to do this game. And I'm like, at this age, like, do you really have the energy? Me, I don't. Like, but these guys, it's like they get off more than women. Like, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever been, like you just said, you caught these guys, but have you ever been on one of these online dating, you met a guy and found out there's another woman?
Oh my God, so many times. I have many stories. My favorite story that I like to tell is, I met this guy once. This shows you what a good little detective I am. I met this guy, and right before, we're meeting at a bar locally. And right before we go, he's like, I'm running 15 minutes late. I'm like, all right, no problem. I was already walking there because it's close to my house. But then 2 minutes later, he's like, actually, I'll be on time. Then 1 minute later, he's like, wait, running late. So in my head, I'm like, well, that's weird. Either you're running late or you're not. But okay. Trying to act like I'm cool, Lisa, like nothing bothers me. Even though in my head, I'm like, all right, open investment, 406, right? We get to there, and he looks heavier than his pictures, but that's fine. Like, I actually like bigger guys, so I didn't care, whatever. But he was wearing like a hoodie and a hat, like a Giants hoodie and a Giants hat.
For a date? First date?
Exactly. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, like, you could have dressed up a little bit.
What an effort. Damn.
And he was he actually was a police officer or detective, I forget. So I'm like thinking to myself, maybe he just came from work, like maybe he was working undercover, I don't know. Again, and this is what we do as women. We make excuses for men all the time. So again, I'm like, okay, he doesn't look like his picture, and men say women do that all the time. He's wearing this outfit, this fakakta outfit, but whatever, I could change him. I say hi to him. We go in the restaurant, and he's talking, and he orders me a glass of wine. I'm not a drinker, as he knows, I barely ever drink, but I'm like, let me get through this. And he starts talking. The wine hasn't come to the table yet. I look above his head, and I see that the TV is on, and I see the Giants game is on. And he's talking, and all I'm thinking in my head is, Giants game is on. He's got a Giants hoodie. He's got a Giants hat. He said he was going to be late. Then he was going to be on time. The wine comes to the table. I look at him, and I said, let me just stop you for a second. I have a question. You were running late, and then you were on time. Was that because you thought you were going to leave the house before your girl got home, and then she came home, and you had to change your outfit to make it look like you were going out with the guys to watch the game tonight? Yo, he just sits back.
I would have not thought that. Yo, you're crazy.
Yeah, that's good. I did not, this whole time you were talking, I did not see that coming at
you
all.
were going to say, like, he came to watch the game. He was looking at the game.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, you're not that big of a fan. And then he sits back and he goes, wow, that was really good. Well, we broke up, but we still live together. So I start getting up and putting my jacket on. And he's like, where are you going? I'm like, Housewives is on. I am fucking missing Housewives for this shit. And I walked home. And I cried the whole walk. And I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because I'm like, first of all, I shaved my legs. Like, no girl really likes doing that, right? So I just wasted all this time, an outfit, putting makeup on, trying to psych myself up. Every date, you got to psych yourself up to be like, be the old Lisa. Be the trusting Lisa. Be the open-minded Lisa. don't be the one that everyone says you're too paranoid. You're too, as my father says, you're up
Overthinking.
on guys. And it's like you're training yourself, you're talking yourself into it. And then that happens. And I think, okay, maybe I look like I'm the bad guy, but maybe I just have a really quick eye for things. And it's disappointing because you're just like, ugh. And then a night like that will be the ones where I'm deleting all the apps. I'm done for dating. And I've had a lot more stories like that. I've had people that have asked me out on the site for months, and I finally went out with them and we hit it off. And at some point of the night or somewhere in it, they've slipped. And then my worst experience, which is the most embarrassing. Am I talking too much?
No, you're fine, because you're literally hitting like all the things that I was.
Yeah, this is everything women that are single are going through, and I can so relate to you. And because that whole crying home, it's not about, oh, why can't I find? It's a frustration where it's like, enough with this shit. Like, why can't anybody be genuine anymore? Like, you're not I just met you, right? And I think you have such a nice soul. Like, you bring a nice energy.
Yeah.
Like, but you want to be like, yo, so like, what is it like? Because I tell my friends, like, you know what you guys like? You like bitches. You like crazy and you like bitches. I'm not I'm crazy, like funny, but I'm not a bitch. I have a warm heart. I may talk a lot and I'm loud, but I'm not a bitch. Like, I really care about people. And when I'm done, and I feel like when they see you care, they're like, no, you gotta like ghost me, or don't take too long to text me, or be a bitch. So when you're walking home, you're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, you feel like, it's hard not to take it personally. It's really hard not to take it personally. And I think to myself all the time, I know I'm smart. I know it's not about me. I know that's how these guys are. But again, when you're the common denominator, when you're watching everybody else move on with their lives, I have some friends. I have a friend that I've gotten really close with in the last year, and just really close for their husband, and they have like the perfect family and the perfect marriage, and her husband and I have gotten really close. And sometimes when I hang out with them, we're the same exact age, all of us, and I just feel sometimes behind the 8 ball. And it's funny, I love hanging out with them, but every time I drive home so defeated, because I'm just like, I feel like I missed that sweet spot. You know what I mean? I feel like, but I don't know what you retrace those steps. What could I have done differently? And I think, like you said, when you start to somewhat settle, and I think I hate to say my worst experience, but my worst personal moral experience is I met someone online, and I fell in love with them, and we just hit it off. The chemistry was unbelievable. And I really thought I fell in love, and we dated for a couple months, and this person like lived at he was over all the time, and I was just I hadn't been in love in a long time and thought it was great. And I ended up finding out that they not only had another person, they were engaged to another person.
Oh my God.
And I was devastated.
How did he pull that off? Like, the girl was there. The girl lived in the same city.
It gets worse. I couldn't figure it out, because when I found out, I was like, I understand, this guy stayed at my house once like a whole month. Like, I remember when he came over, he packed a bag. Yeah, he brought one of those gels, and I was like, oh, he's staying for a while. You know what I'm talking about?
Like, you living here? You pay my car note now.
So when I found out, and I found out through Facebook, I was really confused. When I called him out on it, he had basically told me that, I'm telling you guys some real personal stuff, but he had told me that this woman had lived in Puerto Rico. He lived in the Bronx in New York, and that it was this long distance relationship for years, and that they had gotten engaged, but they don't often see each other. And that he just was getting older and thought, this is a great girl, maybe I should settle down. And I think that when you've been through enough shit, and you almost want to believe it, because it's like you haven't been in love in so long, and it's so hard to meet someone you find a connection with. And while I did somewhat believe him, I still broke it off, because I was like, if you're not going to break off the engagement, then we're done. And he was kind of like, give me time. And I was like, we're done. And I cut him off. And a couple months went by, maybe 5-6 months went by. I heard he got married to the girl, and and then literally showed up at my house, and she was in front of my house one day when I came home from work, crying, "I'm in love with you. I would leave my wife," like all this stuff. And I took him, and he moved into my home that next day, and we were together. And once he moved in, I had convinced myself before he moved in, like, sometimes you can't pick who you love. It's unfortunate to this girl, but I really did believe, because he was always at my house, they were in this long distance relationship. They'd see each other for a couple months. Okay, I can understand that when you said them. However, when he moved in with me, he was like, "I want to start off on an honest foot with you because I'm really in love with you." And I found out the whole thing was a lie. He had lived with her. They both lived in the neighborhood. She traveled a lot for work. And so whenever she would travel, he would stay here. And when he moved in with me, she found out about me. And she kind of ended up finding out about me more before I really had found out about her. And I remember, and I really give her a lot of credit, because she sent me a very long email on Facebook. And it wasn't, if I were her, I would have trashed me. I would have thought I was the biggest, like the worst, because I'm a girl's girl. Esty knows that. I don't have problems with women. I don't do those kind of things. I don't deal with married men. She was classy. And she basically just spelled out, this is who this man is. This is the relationship we were in. This is how long we were together. And he was already living with me. And I didn't know what to do, because I was so caught up in this guilt of, but now he's here and he left this situation. And now he's telling me the truth. Do I kick someone out? But then it's like, so I'm feeling guilty. But then the other part of me, I did love him. And then the other part of me is like, I got to make this work now. Like, now I have to work extra to make this work, because this person changed their whole life. And I sent her back an email, and I gave a half-ass apology. I tried to be kind. It has been a guilt that has sat with me for years, and he and I didn't work out. And most of it was because I couldn't let go of the guilt. I just felt like I got myself into something I didn't fully know. And it, plays tricks on you of like, how does this person do this? But what I have found throughout the years is I find this happens all the time. I have been with guys that have had other families. I have had friends that have told me these kind of stories. And I am probably the most honest person I know. I mean, I'm honest to a fault. And so I think my biggest struggle in life is understanding how someone not only can lie, but to keep it up for months, for years. I can't be in love with more than one person at a time. How someone can do that. And then I'm stuck with the guilt. I'm the bad girl in this situation. I'm the one that other girls hate. I'm the one that I would have hated. I mean, I've seen her before. I don't know if she's ever seen me. She's never acknowledged me. And when I have, I like want to throw myself at her feet and cry and be like, I'm so sorry. I know you don't know me, but I'm actually a really nice person, and I feel terrible and I didn't know. And so like, that was such a traumatic thing for me that like now I'm even super aware. And then the guys will say, it sounds like you have trust issues. Well, yeah, you fucking think, because these horrible things happen time and time again. And I love to tell you that was the first one.
Oh,
it was.
I'm sure.
And the truth is, I think the part that I was so regretful, and I'm not saying I didn't care about that person. And when we were together, it wasn't nice. I don't want to talk bad about them. It was a nice relationship. But you can never sustain something when it starts that way. But at the same time, it's just like when something like that happens, and it happens so often, it's impossible not to think that it's going to happen again. And then I was mad at myself, because I thought, did it get to a point where it was happening so much, where I was meeting so many men that are married? Married men hit on me all the time. Guys with girlfriends hit on me all the time. It's almost as if I convinced myself, because I'm a smart girl. So I'm like, I saw those red flags. I convinced myself to make it work, because I thought, well, if they're all going to be married, or they're all going to have a girlfriend, but this one I have chemistry, or this one I fell in love with, it's like you feel like almost like you got to take a chance on one of them, because then you feel like if I hadn't been single for 3 years, I would have been single for 7 years. And that sounds horrible to say that out loud. You know what I mean?
Why I feel like why care about the numbers? You know what I mean? Like, I think that caring about it sounds wrong that I've been single for 3 years, 5 years. I think if you
The
know what you
stigma that it's
want,
not her. It's a stigma
yeah,
that society puts on us single people because it's like, and I get you, Lisa, because sometimes I don't like to tell people I've been single for 3 years myself and going on almost four. And it's not because we just, like you said, we either we don't get the right guy, or we're not gonna just, now we already know what the fuck we want,
Yeah.
we're not going to settle. But when you tell someone, Esty, at this point, they're like, damn, you've been single that long? They were like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I
Like,
wouldn't
it's a
even think of
stigma.
it that way. I would
It's,
think
You
of it
don't.
like, you've been single for 3 years, then you must be traveling, you must be like having your
No,
no,
time,
but
you
men
must be
think,
living your
men,
men take it.
life.
men do not think that way. They feel like if you're a good chick and someone didn't scoop you up, it's you. And every man I've ever met, my guy friends say it. There must be something wrong with you,
Or you're
especially
not opening yourself, or you're like, or you're
when you're.
being, or you're overthinking, or you're like not let just like, I've
Yeah,
even had my girlfriends like, Alex, just chill, like let it flow. I'm like, I don't got time to let shit flow. Like, it's either
yeah,
this or that. And
yeah,
the problem is when I do start to see, I always, and I don't know about you, but I've now said the minute I have a gut feeling about something, I just need to stop.
yeah.
I need to stop it, because I started listening to other people like, Al, you overthinking, there's nothing this. And then at the end, I start like getting really into that person, and then I get screwed. And I'm like, you see, I should have listened because I knew.
Yes. So it's funny because that situation, that guy that I told you about, I really liked him on the first date. Like, you know, when you just have chemistry with someone. And I remember telling people, and you know what they told me? Lisa, don't look this one up. Don't look into this guy. Because that's what I do. I start searching Facebook, searching online, you know, doing my own
The
investigation.
FBI when it comes to like looking people
Exactly.
up and shit. Yeah, we
And
all Google people. We don't care who it
people
is.
were,
We all Googling.
if you like this guy, don't look him up. And I blame myself. So I'm like, damn, if I had looked, maybe I would have found it before I loved him, before I would have further through given him opportunities. So, you know, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I remember I had a boss once that said to me, you know, if you look for something, you're going to find it. So don't look. And I thought, well, that sounds horrible, because you can look through my stuff and you're never going to find something, because I just don't lie and I don't cheat. And, you know, my word means something. The other thing about the year is not only do men often think that, like I have a guy that I had a little crush on, and, you know, when I told him how long I was single, he also was just like, his interpretation of it was, even if I was single, I wouldn't date you because it sounds like your expectations are too high. Like, that's what they take away from it. But also you have to remember, it's not just the years in terms of numbers. We're women and we crave intimacy. And intimacy is not just sex, right? Intimacy is, I love being your girlfriend. Now, I don't mind being single because I could have been someone's girlfriend. I don't want to settle. But I do love being a girlfriend more than being single. I love being in a relationship. I like companionship. I like doing things with other people. I mean, Nesty, you know me, I'm not a drinker. I don't like to stay out really late. So to me, to have a partner is great. I'm happier
Yeah,
that
you
way.
do like the Irish goodbye where you just disappear.
Oh my God, I love that. I hate saying bye to people. You're like, God, I got to go back that way to say, fuck it. I'll just text them.
I'm the queen of that, because you know what it is. I think because I sometimes I could, you know, be fun and be the life of the party. People never want you to leave, so you just have to just go, and then be like, I left.
Job is done.
Like they're like, you were having a good time. Stop it. Like, you wouldn't have noticed. I would have.
And I did my performance, and I'm out. You know, I'm only getting paid for the 2 hours.
Drop that mic about.
Yeah. But you know, I know for me, I crave intimacy, and you know, there's times when you can have someone, and that's the physical part. I'm finding as I get older that physical part is no longer doing it for me. Like, I want to feel in love with someone. I want to be excited to go on a date with someone. I want to be excited about getting dressed up. I want to be excited about, you know, I have a crazy job. I want to be excited on Friday or Thursday night, like, oh, this weekend we're going to go do this, we're going to do that. And that has been even more evident during a pandemic because you're spending all this time alone. it's hookup season because that's all anyone wants to do. And you don't get that same feeling. And so when it goes back to the number, it's like when you don't have intimacy for so long, you also can get really stuck in your ways. You know, I have gotten so used to being by myself. I go on vacations by myself that sometimes I get scared because I think the more comfortable you are doing things on your own, the less likely you are to compromise, the less likely you are to put up with stuff. My patience is so small because I'm like, I don't need that anymore. Right. And so that scares me too, because I know I'm getting like that and I don't want to be like that. When someone moves in my home, I've been living on my own for so many years. It's hard to have someone in your space. It's hard to follow someone else's rules, to compromise. The longer you're single, the longer you're alone. And I think when you're self-aware and you're conscious of that, you also know that you're trying to do the right thing. You don't want to settle. But at the same time, you're doing a disservice to yourself because you can't grow if you don't have something in front of you to grow with. And so it's this constant balance of who do you be and what's the difference between settling and compromising. And it started off when I was, I don't know about you guys, but when I was in my teens or my 20s, life was so black and white to me. And that's not a good thing. But now things are so gray. I never questioned myself before. Every decision I made, especially when it came to a man, that was it. No regrets, nothing. Now I like question everything. Was I too tough? Let me give him another chance. Let me give him 3 dates. Let me just ignore the fact that this job. Let me ignore that he got laid off. Like, because I'm thinking I'm getting to an age where I can't be so picky. And then the other party was like, fuck that shit. I have so much going on for me. These guys should be like falling out my door, you know? And then I think, man, I like really peaked in college because these dudes used to really like bring me flowers and come to my house and really, they would snuggle with me and not even get any. Like they really sweat me. Now, God forbid I say something like, let's meet for a drink and not at your house. Done.
Like, slow down.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, it really peaked. If I could just go back, you know?
Esty, are you taking this all in? The struggle.
I am, and just listening to her and putting in perspective of like, yeah, I get it. Being especially during the pandemic, right? Like I don't have that like the feeling alone, right? And there's times that I'm like, damn, I wish I was by myself in this damn house. But when you think about, we almost have a year in this situation, right? And coming home and it's like the same life every day. And it's not that you have roommates with you. It's like, no, I'm going home again to be by myself again. I can't see my friends even to fill some sort of the void a little bit that you will feel when you're alone for a long time because nobody's going anywhere. So I understand that. And I actually feel I feel bad.
Thanks.
Sorry. No,
I don't want
to now.
You know what? They don't fucking feel bad for me when I fucking tell them. I don't know. All of a sudden, Lisa, they feel bad for your ass. I'm over here like,
you live with people and you always like,
who do I live with? I don't live with a man that snuggles with me and give like these bitches.
I'm saying at the basic level of just having interactions with people, at least that bare minimum.
With my brother and my dad if I go visit them. That's like the interaction. But I tell them all the time. They always say what's so funny is they're always like, oh, if I wish I could be single. You got the no kids. You don't got to deal with these kids. I'm like, the grass is not always green on the other side.
Yeah.
No, I agree to that, Alex, so much because I get that a lot too, you know, and I try to like, listen, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I hang out with my friends or I'll be on the phone with them. And I mean, once they have kids, forget it. You can't. And the thing is, they'll say things like, what's going on in your life? And you'll be like, well, and they're like, Caleb, stop doing that. And you're like, and they're like, Caleb, stop putting peanut butter on there. And you're like, when? And then like, Caleb, and then you're like, nothing.
Stop eating that.
I do that. Oh my God, that's me. I'm like, you know what, girl? I'm just gonna. I'll text you later. I know you busy.
And the next thing you know, they're like, how come you didn't tell me you were dating this guy? Like you can't get a word in, you know? So then sometimes I try to remind myself, okay, you do have your freedom. You can sleep until 12 on the weekends. Like I try to look at the positives. But there's something about loneliness, right? There's times where I appreciate it. Like I always say, when I break up with a guy, I never feel sad. I never feel lonely. I always feel relief. I always feel like I can breathe. But at some point you get like a little lonely. But that's the thing with time. when you have so much time of loneliness, because loneliness doesn't mean you're not hooking up with people, whatever. Loneliness is inside, right? Like you're emotional lonely. But with the pandemic, because you're not seeing your families as much, I don't get to see my nieces and nephew as much. When you do have kids, you know, when I think about my nieces and nephew, how much I love, I'm not a mom, but when I think about how much I love them. I mean, I would do anything in the world for them. That's how much I love. You know, every time I ask them, do you know how much I love you? And they always say too much. And I always say, yes, too much.
Aww.
When you're not a mom and you're lonely and stuff, at least when you're a parent, and I know that intimate love is different than parent love, but
Absolutely.
it's
Still a love that's like infinite. Like you can't.
It's infinite. It's unconditional. And when you don't have that, and then you're in a place in your life when you start to get older and you think, I don't have that, and I now got to force myself, and it plays a role in dating, because you think, in order to get that in my life, I have to meet someone. I have to be open. If you want to have a family, not do it on your own, right? There are people that do it on their own as well. It all plays into that. And so you think like, okay, one thing is related to the other. So it just all, like I said, it all just kind of gets gray as you get older, because listen, when you're young, or at least when I was younger, in my 20s, you're hot, we had sex, now you're my boyfriend. That's kind of just how it worked. And then
that was how it went too.
Right? And then 3 years in, you're like, you know what? I really just don't really like you, but
when you speak.
Yeah.
Your favorite color is blue. Your middle name is Chad.
I remember.
How do I not know this?
I had wait 5 years, and we lived together when I was in my early 20s. And I remember once my dad and I are very tight. And we're in the car. I'll never forget this. And my dad said, "Oh, you and so, you think you'll marry him?" And I said, "You know what, Dad? Sometimes I lay next to him in bed and I think to myself, I don't know how I got so lucky, because he's such a good man. He's such a good man on paper, and he loves me so much. And I'm young, and I lucked out by meeting someone with such a big heart." And then there's other nights where I lay next to him and I think, if he continues to fucking breathe that way, I will cut his throat and watch him bleed out. And my dad was like, yeah, no, that's not normal. That's not normal.
That's not, you're not going to get over that.
Because you're like, I'm going to cut you if you eat my steak.
You're not going to get over that. That's not going to like pass. Like, I don't know about guys listening now. Like, damn, I was feeling Lisa, but now she's talking about like if I was breathing.
Yeah. Like I have a septum situation.
Like guys, Lisa will not cut you now. That was old Lisa. That was 20 something. Now she'll buy you like a thing for the nasal relief. She'll help you out with your sleep apnea. She's a good girl.
Yeah, but I look back now and I'm like, damn, that was a good guy. I probably should have stayed with that guy, because you don't know how good you have it, But let me tell you,
probably got a beer belly and balding and shit.
But
like,
Alex said something problem. The thing that I think my most humbling dating experience, and this is going to sound terrible, but since we're telling the truth, when I was younger, I dated a couple of pretty boys in my time. And I didn't think that was my type. It just kind of always ended up that way. I think because I've never given guys the time of day. So I think guys that are used to getting attention have always been surprised when they don't get it from me. So it kind of always makes them chase a little bit more, because I've just never, the way I grew up, because of the way my mom was with men, I won't compliment a man in the beginning. Like I'm a little tough in the beginning. You got to really earn stuff with me. But I took a chance. The guy that I was the most in love with in my life was a guy that was not attractive. He was all the things that women say, like, oh, he wasn't tall, he wasn't good looking, he was a lot older, he had a belly. I thought he like put me on a pedestal of me, and that man ended up cheating on me, whole other, left to right. And you can't even trust the ugly ones. Like you can't even.
That's fucked up, yo.
Yeah, the ugly ones stink. You know why, Lisa? Let me tell you why the ugly ones are worse. Because the ugly one is like, God damn, but I got this bitch. I could definitely get someone else. That was my most recent
They really
one.
enhance their personalities to like women not only want handsome men, they want smart and nice guys. So let me be that, and they'll start to see me blurt
Yeah.
out that
What you
not a
thought
Shrek
was
anymore.
not
They'll see
safe.
me as a whatever, right? You
That
get
was the
comfortable
most,
with
that
the
was
ugly
my,
face.
the last guy I dated. Not so good looking. Like people were like, the fuck is this? But I was like, oh, but he's sweet and he's smart.
That was
And he ended up being the biggest fuck boy. And I used to be like, you know what? I'm just like, you swear, you cheated, you played me.
yeah.
I was like,
Yo, let me tell you something. My guy best friend, I was like devastated when it happened. I remember my guy best friend and I went for a hike, and he said, can I tell you something? Because my guy best friend, we've been best friends for 15 years. And he's the only person I really trust with like my men advice. And he said, I know you loved him, and I'm not taking that away from you. But I really think because this is the only guy that you ever really were, like, as I broke up with him, but I was still devastated. Like, I did the right thing by breaking up with him, but that didn't mean my heart wasn't broken. And he said, I don't think it was your heart. I think it was your ego. He's like, I think you couldn't believe he did that to me, because right, I would defend him. I would bring him around my friends, and they'd be like, "Oh, he doesn't
that's
look
not
like."
what we would think for you. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'd be like, "You don't know. He's a good man, and I don't even deserve him." And I was like vouching for him. And then when he
That's the
cheated,
lesson we have to, when we start having to convince our friends what this guy look like, no, look past his big ass forehead. He's really smart. That's why he got that big forehead. And they'd be like, ow, like you really stressing over this?
He's not
So
fat.
now,
He's healthy. He has a good appetite.
Like even when I show Karen and Esty the guys, they were like, what's this guy? I'm like, yeah, but you know, he's really cool. They're like, yeah, but don't.
He's an astronaut in Texas.
He's my, you know, but it's true. It's an ego thing. It's not that we're hurt. Like, oh, I'm not willing. Somebody won't love me. It's like, hold on, ugly boy.
yeah,
I gave you an upgrade, you motherfucker. And you think that you were gonna do right. And that's when you get mad, where you're like, God damn it, because now he can use me as a platform for the other bitches. Like, yeah, but this was
like you brought down my stock because other dudes are like, something up with her. Now I brought up yours. And the way that I looked at it was just like, all right, well, you know what? If some man's going to dog me, I'm going back for looks. Because if it's all going to end, if you're all going to end up at the same dead end street, I might as well be down that dead end street in a Porsche than I am in a Honda. You know what I'm saying? So it's very confusing, the whole thing. And it's stressful because things that you thought you can count on. And that sounded so bad because, like I said, looks are not important to me. Personality is. But
fuck it. If we're going down in flames, let's just go.
Yeah.
Whoever the fuck you want. I'm going to go with one that looks like Maluma next. I'm going to be like, if you don't look like him, I'm not fucking with you.
Can I ask you a question, Lisa? You mentioned that you have a male best friend.
Yeah.
Is that someone you ever considered dating?
So, you know what? He's always had a girl since I met him. When I met him, he had this girlfriend, and then she became his fiance. At one point, maybe like a year into our friendship, because we were coworkers first, he became single and I became single. And the thought crossed my mind for like maybe a couple days, not because I looked at him as like, oh, I want to, not that, oh, I want to jump him. It was like, wow, we just have such a great dynamic, such a great relationship. Yeah. And I remember we were in the car and I said something like that to him, like, we're both single, like, should we date? I don't know how serious it was. And I remember he was like, we're just such good friends. Like, I don't know. We never talked about it again. The truth was I never thought about it again. And I'm so glad we didn't. It is by far, one of the most important relationships I've ever made in my life. He probably is the only man that I've ever made friends with that didn't want to sleep with me, that didn't have an ulterior motive, that isn't cheating on his girl, that doesn't try to be suave. And there's no one I trust with my life. And there's no one I tell more of my secrets to. And there's no one that gives me real feedback. I mean, there have been times we are the king and queen of going on long hikes. And I feel selfish because, he's such a good guy. He's been in a long relationship. He doesn't have as many stories. But me, we won't see each other for a month. And I'll be like, let me tell you about these 4 dates I went on. Let me tell you about these schools. Luckily, he loves hearing it. He will laugh whole hike and be like, nobody has a story like you do. But he'll always be like, even the guy that I told you the story about, the one that lived with me, I remember us going for a hike And when we were over in Dykeman actually. And when we got to this
you love being around Dominicans, yo.
First of all, wait a minute. Your friend is Dominican and he went on a hike?
No, he's black.
Oh, because I was about to say, Dominicans don't hike. They don't like wood shit. I only know one Dominican that goes hikes and actually does it on a family thing. And sometimes I question his Dominican life. I'm like, I don't think you're really Dominican. And I'll just, he has a letter T. He don't listen to our podcast. But I'm like, you went on a fucking, he was like, yeah, we go for the whole week and everything. I'm like, that's not some Dominican shit.
Right.
I don't know, because I don't know. I can't speak for Dominicans on that, but whatever.
Yeah, but what I like about him is that, like, he'll give it to me straight without making me feel shamed. So when I told him the story about that guy, and I was like, this guy lives with me, I remember, like, looking at him thinking, like, what is he going to say? And I remember he just turned to me and he was like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And I remember I just started crying and I said, I got myself something into that I'm going to have to figure out how to get out of, you know? And that's always been our conversations. Or I called him the other night for advice about a guy that, like, my instinct told me one thing, but my head was telling me something else. And what I love about him is he'll always be like, you know, Lisa, you know in your heart the right thing to do, or you know to trust yourself. And so, like, he never gives me advice. He always kind of push it back on me. So to answer your question, no, maybe for a minute, like I said, over 10, 12 years ago.
Because you don't want to risk it, right? Because if you potentially get involved with him and it doesn't work out relationship-wise, you might not.
It would be the biggest loss.
Friendship. Yeah, you might not get that friendship back.
It would be the biggest loss. And it's not that kind of chemistry where sometimes you have chemistry with a guy and you're like, oh, this is so good, we should date. It's like, I mean, he's like a brother. He's like family, you know? And I value that relationship. And like I said, I don't have a lot of guys like that.
Because the male brain right now, it's seriously, I don't know if it's social media, I don't know if it's peers, I don't know what it is or whatever, but I think that they shifted from finding women to marry, finding whatever, to now just being like, let me be a hoe and let me sell my wild oats and let me experience life, quote unquote, and not realizing, first of all, they have clocks too. Like, men at some point need to get out of their mom's house and go live a real life and grow up.
Yeah, but they don't. Their clock is not like
their clock is slower than ours.
Yeah, it's not a valid. Like, I don't feel like their clock has any significance, like a valid, like anything. Like, they're like, I can go. They're like, they can be 40, 45 and just grab themselves a 20-something-year-old bitch.
They could be a Clooney and live, you know, their life until
their clock is not like
you need to do this now. Like, no doctor is touching his balls and jiggling it. Like, well,
they are, but they're not giving them the same results.
But here, they're not doing the ball check and like, well, Tom, if you don't jiggle these balls or have this in some girl's mouth soon, you're gonna lose that baby. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Hard anymore. Like, can you imagine? Then they would be like, oh, okay, let me get out.
You know, I can do that shit.
And I've had that because guys, I've had to say to guys early in relationships, like, listen, in the last 2 years, like, listen, I don't want to be that girl, but I just want to know if you're looking for something serious. I always say I'm casually looking for something serious. And the reason why I like to say casually is because I don't want you to think that just because I'm looking for serious, that means I'm looking for something serious with you. You still have to earn it. So it's still casual. Because when a guy says
we don't get married.
Yeah. Because I have guys tell me all the time, like, what are you looking for in a man? Are you applying for this job? Because if you're not applying for this job, I don't need to give you the, like, prerequisites. You know what I mean?
So is this the thing that you do now with men? Like, they have to come at you this way? Like, let me ask you something. What are your qualities? Like, do you do this? Tell us so that us single women
sits in that chair and she interviews them with the dog in her lap.
And then she goes on like fucking been verified and looks at all the shit that they said and sees if it coincides with what they said. Like,
background check. So I'll be like, hi, Letitia. I saw that you dated John and he says that you broke up because you were crazy. Can you give me 3 reasons and 3 examples of you being crazy that weren't his fault?
I told him to put his shoes away. I told him to hang up his jacket, and I told him to put his cup in the cupboard. And he called me crazy.
Well, that's the thing, because sometimes these guys will tell you about their exes, and I'm like, I don't want to hear it because I'm going to judge you. I very rarely ever side with the guy, you know, especially when they talk about their children's mother. I wouldn't say straight off the bat, I'm like, what's your prerequisites? But I am very blunt and honest from the front, especially if I don't have an intention or if I don't think they have an intention. If they start asking me things about what qualities do I want in a guy, or I do get annoyed, and I'll be like, why? Like, you're not the guy, you know, so you don't need to.
And sometimes, why are you asking? Are you gonna fake it, or are you gonna run away because
like
you
the
don't have it?
Because are you trying to like act like you have those qualities? You're not. Like I said, if you're not putting in an application, don't worry about it, because I can find a place for you in my life if there's an opening somewhere right now. But I do try to say from the first date lately, I've been trying to be more open to like I said, I'm casually looking for something serious. I try to say that because I think if you tell someone you're looking for something serious, they just automatically think, oh, with me. And it's like, no, you still have to, there's still qualities I'm looking for. If you say I'm looking for something casual, then they just take their time. And like I said, I don't have that much time. And when I've had the conversations about the time, oh, you're young. And it's hard to say, no, my doctor says that if I don't have a kid in the next year, it's probably never going to happen. Oh,
I think that's something people want to hear, like on a first date at the Olive Garden, like as you're eating your breadstick. By the way, if I don't get one of these in here,
by the way, I would love to sit at Olive Garden. I can't even get one Diet Coke, so you're that's
Oh my gosh, I feel like we can talk about dating for hours, especially because it's a subject that many people can relate to. I know Alex is enjoying this conversation right now and definitely giving feedback and insights.
Well, no, because she's like my twin. Like we relate. we are going through the same shit. We've been through this roller coaster of a life of dating, and how it doesn't get easier when you get older. And I like that Lisa is kind of sitting there going, it's not you, it's them. And I think a lot of these women need to hear you say that. Like, it's not because, oh, something's wrong with you. No, we're all kind of feeling the same way.
Yeah.
We are almost, I say this and I know guys get really upset. And listen, if a good looking guy is watching this and they want to file an application, I don't want to deter them. But I think that women have, in the last couple of years, almost out-evolved a lot of men. Like, we're continuing to grow. We're continuing to build careers. We're continuing to become independent. We're continuing to be able to say we don't need men for things. And men are kind of going backwards, right? And I think, and I understand, men feel like, well, women have taken that from us. Like, you don't want us to be assertive in certain ways. And we want to be assertive in this and not in this way. You want to be independent, but you don't want us to do this. And I get that could be confusing for them too. But then there's just a lack of step up altogether. And the expectation of a man, of what they want. A man would never deal with a girl cheating. A man would never deal with a girl doing all these things. But God forbid. Let me tell you how many.
Double standard, yo. That double fucking standard.
You know how many guys I know that cheat on their girls, and then when they think their girl's talking to another guy, they're like, oh, she's a whore, she's trash. And I'm like, you know, you tried to get me like 10 times, right? Like, so there's just so much expectation on us. And like you said, as you get older and the more you become aware, sometimes I think, man, I wish I was dumb. I wish I was like naive, because I probably would be dating a lot more. But it's just it all ends up the same way.
Yeah. And it's been a valid point of like women evolving and growing, especially in this given time where people are speaking up more for women, trying to give women more opportunities. We grew up in an age where a lot of our moms were stay-at-home moms taking care of the kids and not in the workforce. And they felt like they had to find a man to sort of help them live their life. But their life was just being at home with the kids and cooking and cleaning. And the expectation of a man was once he gets home, there's dinner, the kids are put to bed, and everything's done for him, right? And we don't live in a time like that. And I feel like a lot of men who look at their mothers who are still in those situations, right, feel like my wife needs to be that way, or my girl needs to be that way, and it's not. And I had to have this conversation with a lot of boys, basically, like, women don't want to be home. Women want to go out. Women, you go out with your boys, girls are going out with their girls and hanging out and doing almost the same stuff as you, but just not in a sucio way, right? Because what men do. So you make a valid point of, Yeah, men have their expectation, women have their expectation, but men need to be realistic with their expectation. I remember I used to talk to a guy many years ago. I was in high school, and he said the woman I marry needs to be like my mom, who's all about her man, cooks, cleans, and takes care of the kids and
Hmm.
works. And I was like, you are
Yeah.
never ever going to be married
My
because
ex was like that. When we lived together, I would come home and he'd get home like an hour before me, be sitting on the couch, and then I'd come home. And I remember he used to say, babe, what's for dinner? And I'd be like, I don't know, baby, what is for dinner? You've been home for an hour. You could have cooked. The groceries are still in the fridge. Remember once we got in this argument, it was the same thing. Like, my mother, she always had food on the table and she always did this. And I'm like, did your mother work 12-hour days? Because
right.
I don't think that she did. And I don't want to disrespect your mom, but she didn't. So you expect me to also, like, I could do those things, but then I'll be a stay at home and you can take care of this apartment. Did your mom own her own place? I don't think that she did.
Oh my god.
She did. So it's like, we can compare, but let's compare everything,
Right.
And I agree. But then at the same time, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I do like strong men. I do like assertive men. I do like a man to be a man. So I think sometimes, and my guy friends have told me this, sometimes I can send wrong mixed messages because, I saw this meme the other day and it was like, I want a man to grab me and kiss me, but if he grabs me and kisses me, I'm like, oh my God, you're so aggressive. Like, why would you do that? I'm an independent woman, It's hard for a guy
Yeah.
to follow your lead. And I've had, I remember a guy once, I had my groceries and he said, let me help you. I'm in the neighborhood. Let me help you bring your groceries upstairs. I'm like, I don't need you to do it. And he was like, I know, but I want to. I was like, I don't need you to. And he said, but I want to. And then there were other times where I'd be like, damn, I just put the shelf up by myself and he didn't help me. And I'm like, but I set that tone, So
Right.
I think sometimes like trying to be conscious of not sending them mixed signals, which is really hard, especially the more independent you are, because they don't know when they're picking and choosing when they're supposed to do that. And so I'm trying, as I've been more self-reflective in the last year, thinking about what mixed messages am I sending out there? What expectations am I putting on that are impossible of like, I want to be strong. I want to be independent. I don't want to be told what to do, but I still want you to grab my butt when I'm in the kitchen, when I'm grabbing something to eat. And I still want you to make the plans to go out to dinner. And I still want you, when I'm getting crazy, I still want you to put your foot down and you don't have to curse me or be disrespectful, but sometimes give me the look where I'm like, oh, okay.
I think that we are, I don't want to say this, but I think I'm gonna have to. Sometimes we do lack in honesty and what exactly we want, and we want them to know what to do at the given moment. Like you should be
Mm-hmm.
programmed to deal with me. You should know me by
Yeah.
now. Like, especially when it comes to like, no, you don't have to give me a birthday gift. No, you don't have to give me a Christmas gift, but you're like
Yeah.
waiting, like, surprise me. Like I've done that so many
I want
times.
to, but you better be shopping for me. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, no gifts this year, babe. And then you're like, let me give you the surprise gift that I said I
Yeah.
already gave you. Where's mine?
Like,
And
I
you're like,
get a card.
yeah, like, oh, you really didn't buy me anything.
Right.
Like, I think we kind of do it to ourselves, but I don't think we're ever going to change that, to be honest. Like, learn how to deal with women, learn us, and then you'll have a happy, happy life. The
Yeah.
end.
Just agree with me.
Just agree with me and just buy me chocolate.
At this point, I just want someone who is kind and someone who is honest. And that sounds like it sounds like a 5-year-old, because it sounds like when you ask little kids, what are things that you want to teach your children when they're young? You want them to be kind. You want them to be honest. You want them to use their words, right? And as you get older, it's interesting how all that comes back, because it's like, I don't even care about what job they have. I don't care if they live in a crummy apartment. I don't care if they, it's funny, a couple guys I went on dates with were like intimidated by my job or my college education. Like, I never graduated. There was a guy I talked to the other day and he said, I'm kind of embarrassed I never went to college. And I'm like, you think I care about that? Like, I had that privilege because I was really lucky to have a dad that put me through college, but I can see through intelligence. I could see through hard work. I'm actually more turned on by someone who, if you look at all the guys I've dated a lot of guys that either grew up very poor or grew up in the hood and made something of themselves. Almost every single guy. I find that even more attractive because I'm like, wow, you didn't have the opportunities I had.
Right.
But you go back to like those little things of like kindness and honesty that you thought you didn't even think of those as qualities to think of because you thought those should be natural things. But those are things that are important. You know, gaslighting is a huge thing in relationships now. You know, making you think you're the crazy one. And it's just like, I think about at the end of the day, if I just met someone who like was that we just had the same end goal, and my end goal is us against the world, no matter what. Right. So, and I think, you know, one thing too, when we talk about dating that's changed in the last probably year for me is if you had asked me 2 years ago, I would have told you I probably wouldn't have dated anyone that didn't want kids because I wanted to have one. And now I go on dates and I think, you know, I'm 41. I have some issues in terms of like uterus issues. What if I meet someone that does want kids and I can't? And then what happens if now I have to think, well, maybe they won't want me. And so there's so many things in the back of your head. And then you're going on these dates, like I said, you're trying to be this open, young, fun, but you got all this shit crammed in the back of your head that a guy could just never possibly understand. And you're working all that out while you're trying to get through their shit. So it's almost like you want to find the negative stuff faster so that you could be like, okay, good. Because then I don't have to think about
weed them out. Yeah.
Now I can just be like, you weren't worth it because of this. I think I would be terrified if I met a great guy that had the qualities I want, because then I'd start to think, I can't remember the last time I ever thought, am I good enough for this guy? Would he want me? I kind of want to feel that way, but I'm also really scared of it too. So it's almost like it makes it easier because you end up being in control. So the whole thing is like crazy. I don't want to get depressing or anything, but
no, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's unfortunate that you have to go through all of those things. And it's not because you want to, it's because it's a reality of life. And,
yeah,
and being a woman and development and genetics and science and everything. So I hope that in the near future you find that happiness and don't settle for less. Settle for what you deserve, because you deserve amazing things. And I think we can continue the conversation of dating into different at a later time with you, just to follow up and also get into more stories, because you're actually like one of the funny people I ever met. And this conversation kind of went a little dark at certain point.
Tell you my good story, so we'll have to do a part 2.
We'll do a part 2 of follow up, just to hit those. Do
like
those
a double date, like
yes.
It's been verified. Be like Alex and Lisa go on a double date.
Oh my God, we should totally do that. We should have people apply on this show to go date with us, and then we should film it and then just say what they did right and what they did wrong.
Let's play the dating game.
Yes,
you should go on a speed date and tell us and report back to us
about the speed date, because I would be vagina
from the 40-year virgin. Gina.
What's your name? Gina? No,
Gina.
It's or Gina. No, Gina.
Yeah. My God, I would love to experience that one day. Not for nothing, I would pretend like I'm like, hi, my name is Susan, and
they're so hard. I found them 5 minutes can feel like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Especially with the wrong person that's like a dry fuck. You're just like, all right, man.
Yeah.
Working out. Well, why am I here?
Yeah, so I'm sorry to tell funny stories, but you know what? This is the reality of it. It is a little depressing during a pandemic. It goes through motions. Sometimes it is really funny to tell people stories, and then sometimes you're like, yo, this is the worst. So we could definitely get to the part 2 and 3 now that you've
definitely. We're going to do 2, 3, 4. It's going to be Lisa and Alex's journey through the fuckboyville.
Yeah. We call it like Pandemicville.
Pandemicville.
Yeah,
but you were awesome. Lisa, I'm telling you, whoever's listening is every woman that's single is gonna so relate to every story you said and what we discussed, because it's fucking life, and we all am like, yep, I thought I was the only one.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and I would like to hear it too, just because it's like I feel like I'm the only one.
You're not. You obviously, well, you, if anything, you got Alex. I was like, girl, me too.
I was like, I could talk about dating. I was like, you guys are gonna have a good conversation because
Yeah,
now
she
you
was
have
like,
the
because
whole back and forth.
the whole
Yeah.
conversation, they were like, we're going to bring Lisa on to talk about being single and dating in the pandemic. I'm like, bitch, I do that every single day with you. I send you. They're like, yeah, but you know, like we'll get banter because you know what it is? I think they didn't think it was as bad as I keep telling them. So now it was like
Yeah.
you validated.
When
Like,
there's
no, this is, it's not like we're dying, like we're
right.
thirst buckets, but it's real. Like especially what I loved what you said was when you were like, the older I get, my standards, you know, scare, like, I don't know, scare them away, or just they can't handle like having that type of woman.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. But we'll get into this conversation, or, you know, have multiple conversations about this. And definitely bring back some stories and some banter. Alex can talk more about her. Can you get your boobs out of the screen?
I put you in the sink.
Jesus,
Don't
this
be
is not the dating show.
Let me
This is
tell you
not,
something.
this does not become the dating show or advertisements for
This
dating.
shit is gonna,
High up. I could go change.
this
Lisa
shit is
came all
gonna,
cute. She's
my,
like, oh,
I'm
it's
gonna
gonna
start
be
putting
on YouTube.
just boobs right on the screen. I'd be like, well, you know, I mean, you gotta put. She said it. She was like, look, if we're all going to fucking hell anyway, I might as well get something
Yeah.
I'm gonna be enjoy looking at.
Right.
Because when I go for just brains, these motherfuckers are getting all, they too confident. They
Yeah.
too confident. I'm gonna
Again,
go
you didn't
for.
have to put your titties in the screen.
I swear I didn't mean to. It's the guy. I was trying to put my jacket out of freezing.
Oh my God. If you're listening to this on a podcast, please follow us on YouTube so you can actually see that, because I'm not deleting that from the video.
People are gonna be like, damn, no wonder Alex got, because in the last episode, Karen said, out of the trio, Alex got the biggest tits, SD got the biggest ass, and Karen is just fucking perfect. So
She said,
now
and I'm
next
the
episode,
cutest.
SD gotta be bending over so she can validate her ass.
Nah, unless you dropping bills, nah, I'm not. Hold on,
Oh shit, we just gotta drop bills and you'll drop it? Damn, you
Yeah,
easy.
Ben's
Okay.
will make her dance. Hello.
I make it dance. I make it rain.
Meanwhile, if someone would just walk my dog, whatever you want, you know, that's where I've lowered my expectations.
Like, you're the best in the
If I
world.
could 2 times, folks, you know, like maybe we can make it to a third date.
Oh my God.
At this point, I'm like, you got a
Hello.
Netflix account that I can share? Oh shit, you might be the one.
Yeah.
No,
Be
do
the
not
one.
fall for the lowest of the lowest. Like, you got a Metro card? Oh shit.
Listen, at this point, if at this point, and I know Lisa agrees, and we'll end it in a bit, but I know, Lisa, you're like, if I went this far and didn't go for just any Joe, and I let go of guys that weren't worth it, for me to now just take anybody, it defeats the purpose.
It's you know, it's funny. One of my guy friends.
It's not like you're looking like, nope, you didn't check off every box, but it's, you know what I'm saying, right?
No, I agree. One of my guy friends, I became friends with this guy. He's single, but there's nothing between us. We're just friends. And he does dating all the time. And he said to me, I think you should lower your standards. I think you're a great girl. I think you need to lower your standards. And I said to him, if I do that, I feel like there was so many guys I dated, even the ex that I told you about that I lived with, that I probably, if I was going to settle, I might as well settle for them, because at least we had good chemistry. At least that they were nice guys. Like, if I wasn't willing to stay with them after investing a couple of years, I might as well just ride this out. My hope is that my soulmate is married to someone else, and hopefully they're just on their way to their divorce, because it's, you know, in their 40s, there's a 50% divorce rate, and then I'll find him and he'll already be cooked and hopefully not traumatized. It's the only thing I could think of. I still have hope. There's still like a year or two left.
You're like, if
You
I put
got
my ear
it.
close enough to the window, I might hear someone yelling divorce now.
Funny as shit. That's what I put. I just put something up last week that was like, my soulmate is probably pushing the door when he's supposed to pull, but I got you, sweetheart. I can't wait to meet you.
Those are some good memes we should add to this video. We need to send me all those funny memes that you guys are mentioning so I can add them so people could see. All right. Well, we're gonna end now. I think of course, I keep saying it, but we'll have definitely a follow-up conversation. Lisa, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Just so that people know, Lisa's not a public figure. She's not with a public page on Instagram. You cannot hit her up directly. We literally chose Lisa because she's just an average woman, like many of
Above
our
average.
and viewers.
She's above average. That's why she can't
Above
just settle.
average. Well, she's a typical female. She's not someone that's selling anything or trying to get people to invest
She's
in a
selling
pyramid
ass.
scheme. She's literally just like, I'm here to talk and let y'all know what it is. So thank you for coming on, Lisa.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
Yes.
I'm glad you had a good time. Let people know to listen to this episode when it comes out, and we have it on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and iHeartRadio, and we also have a YouTube page.
Awesome.
Toodaloo, petty fuckers.
Until next time.
Until next time.
There you go.